In celebration of 1 year of podcasting, we are holding a giveaway of epic proportions. Everything you need to get started running games. 4 dice trays, 12 complete sets of dice, 4 Crown Royal bags, the D&D Essentials Kit, the D&D Starter Kit, Hoard of the Dragon Queen D&D Adventure, the Young Adventurers Collection, Nerdarchy's out-of-the-box encounters, Brass and Steel Steampunk Tabletop RPG, OSR Greats, The Rat Hack, Into the Odd, and White Box Fantastic Medieval Adventure Game. But that's not all. The Curse of Strahd Revamped is included as well. This complete list goes to one lucky winner in the U.S. Here's how to enter. Head on over to Apple Podcasts or Podchaser and leave a review. Leave a comment as well. Then, go to our Facebook page and like it. Finally, stop by our webpage, thedungeonmastersdojo.com/about, and leave us a message. Once we hit 500 on each, we will draw a winner. You must do all 3 to qualify. We'll see you next time in the dojo. Greetings and salutations, DMs, GMs, referees, judges, game operations directors, and all other varieties of storytellers. This is your DM, Scott, and it's time for another DM Quick Tip. So you've got a group of adventurers that have been pretty successful in their adventures, and because of that, they got a lot of gold jingling around in their pockets. So what can you, as the DM, do to part them with their money? It's easy to lose track of the gold your party accumulates, so here's 7 ways that I like to part my player characters with their gold. On the road to the city or town that they are journeying to, your player characters will no doubt come across toll booths. Yes, tolls. As your player characters get closer to more civilized areas, they will likely encounter these. I love using toll booths to part player characters with their gold, and will usually charge them 1 to 2 gold pieces for their entire journey to the city. Your stalwart band of adventurers has come at last to the city. The promise of flagons of ale, a hot meal, a warm bath, and a bed to sleep on are all something to look forward to. Prior to entering the city or the town, charge them a tax. Now, the tax can vary depending on the size of the city. This could be a very simple 10 silvers to enter, and you call it a day. I like to add a weapons tax on top of that. So say your player characters are each charged 10 silver pieces to enter the city, but the guard notices that they are all armed. As such, a 5 silver piece tax will be added for every weapon that they're carrying. Then there's another 2 silver pieces for each weapon to be piece-bound with a short length of ribbon, provided, of course, by the city. By the end of the day, each one is probably paying close to 30 silver pieces just to get into the city or town. Now, once in the city or town, you can charge your player characters each about a gold piece. Why, you ask? They're naturally going to want to have their clothes professionally repaired or cleaned, their footwear maintained, their weapons honed, and their gear repaired by professionals. I don't really see any way around not having a professional take care of all these tasks. Sure, the player characters can say, I'm going to maintain my own weapons, and they can, but if you're a professional adventurer, then chances are good you probably have some knowledge on how to maintain your weapons, but you're not as skilled as a professional. As such, I give them no choice. I merely say, take a gold piece from your character sheet. And I explain what it's for, and sometimes players get a little upset, other times they don't. But the beauty of being the dungeon master is that your say is final. Of course, your player characters, again, want to have somewhere to sleep, and that costs money too. I like to give them an option of 4 different types of accommodations at the inn. The first one is the common room, and this is the cheapest. For 2 coppers, you can sleep in the common room, sharing a bed with a stranger or 2, and sharing a room with up to 20 other individuals. The chances of you catching fleas or getting bed bugs are pretty good, and you're probably not going to get a restful sleep. Up at 2 silvers, and you get a room that you're sharing with another individual who is paying 2 silvers as well. There is less of a chance of fleas or lice or any other parasites, but still a pretty good chance you might pick up a thing or 2. Finally, the next 2 are the better options. For 1 gold piece, you can have a private room with a bed and a bath. For 1 gold piece, 10 silver, you can have a private room with a bed, a bath, and someone will even drop your clothes off to be laundered and repaired. Now, buying new stuff is a good way of parting your PCs with gold if they're in a city. So you've been through a couple grueling battles. Your clothing will be an absolute mess, and they're probably going to be too tattered and torn to be worth repairing. Time for a new set of clothes. For those adventurers who have had some lucrative adventures outside the city, they probably have a pocket full of gold. With such wealth at their fingertips, they're going to buy all manner of finery. This is when you charge them a clothing fine. In my cities, there are usually rules, especially in the human cities, against dressing higher than your station. If you're going to dress higher than your station, there is a fine associated with it. Once your PCs buy those fancy clothes, then I give them a blanket fine that will usually cover their entire stay in the city. So that's another gold piece or 2. Now, when you think of station, understand that adventurers probably occupy the lower echelon of the medieval fantasy pecking order. Essentially, they're the wandering homeless who make a living kicking in doors and killing things so they can take their property. These individuals would quite possibly be looked down upon even more so than the local peasantry. Now on to food. Your player characters are going to want to eat. I don't allow them to continue to eat their rations while in the city. I just think it's unrealistic and ridiculous to continue to eat rations while you're in a city and there's all sorts of food available to you. Rations aren't that tasty, especially the iron rations. After traveling and fighting and sleeping on the ground and all the other uncomfortable things adventurers do, they're going to want a decent meal or 2 or 3. Meals will cost an adventurer about 2 to 3 silver pieces a day. That's including a modest number of drinks. Now, what if your player characters have horses? Well, those are going to need to be fed and cared for as well. To stable a horse and care for the horse, I'll usually charge the player characters 1 to 2 silver pieces a day. That will cover lodging for the horses, care for the horses, and food and water. What if your player characters don't have horses? Well, maybe they have enough money to buy one. And that is a good way of parting your player characters with their gold as well. Upkeep and repair of barding and all the other gear associated with owning a horse can be a cost of another silver piece a day. Prior to leaving the city, you'll need to get food for your horse, and that is an additional cost. And finally, I like to charge a horse tax. This tax of roughly 1 to 2 gold pieces is charged so that there's money in the coffers to pay those unfortunate individuals who are responsible for picking up the piles of horse poo in the middle of the city streets. Now, there are many ways to part your player characters with their gold, and these are just some. We'll see you next time in the dojo.